First, we have image of the invisible God, firstborn of all creation. So this verse explains Jesus is not a reflection of God, but of the same divine essence. God is not seen by human eye, but Jesus is seen. And he is the visible image of the invisible God, not just his body, but his words, life, etc. Everything, when you want to talk to God, you see it in Jesus Christ. Right? And second point, he is the firstborn of all creation. This doesn't mean that he was the first thing to be created or somehow emerge at the beginning of creation. Firstborn here refers to his rank or position in comparison to all of creation, including mankind. Now we know we have some not just I recording. You have some GWs who will try to make you they will play and trick, and they will use this firstborn to mean created. It doesn't mean that. This refers to his position, his rank. An next counter, if you was to look at Psalms 89, verse 27, this was speaking about King David, and it says, also I will make my firstborn the highest of kings of the earth. So sometimes I counter to that discussion when the one that say firstborn here means created. When you look at this Psalms 89:27, when they were speaking about David, we know David wasn't the firstborn, right? But here we see God referring to him as the firstborn, so that it counters their argument where firstborn in this case means created, because God, when I really look back to the Greek and stuff, and it will show you that this word has several meanings, and one of the meanings of that is in terms of rank or position. So I just want us to be mindful and aware of that when they say firstborn of all created, it means he was not created, but he was first. He was the highest rank, highest position in comparison to everything else, right? So mankind was created, not born. The universe was created, not born. Jesus is first in rank and position in both of his natures. He is divine, the very image and essence of God. He is human, the very essence of perfection, without sin or blemish, born of a virgin. So he's first everywhere, right? So Paul is now establishing this. He's really stretching out and allowing them to see how awesome, I like to use the word awesome plenty, how awesome Christ is. And they are able now to get a better context and a cleaner picture as to the vastness of Christ, right? So we want to look at verse 16 here, 16a. I would have broke up 16 into two parts. So we have, for by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. So here we want to look at the fact that, yes, we know that he is the image of the invisible God. He is the firstborn of all creation. But Paul goes on to explain, in addition to these things, his divine essence and rank. Jesus is the power behind creation itself. This includes the visible universe. It also includes the world of the spirits, which we do not see but exists. This certainly includes angels who, at this point in time, if we was to look contextually, who the false teachers were saying that the Colossians have to use as part of their worship. But here Paul is saying here what he is above them. So this certainly includes angels who are being promoted as objects of worship by the false teachers, right? So he's
But
saying,
I told him,
yeah, go ahead.
yes, while you got to verse 15,
Mhm.
I was actually reading ahead, and the way that you was explaining, like when you reached the firstborn and you got into it, I really wanted to get like a understanding of what you meant because I was a little confused. But then you started to explain it. And then while you were explaining, I was doing my research on this side too.
Yeah,
And me, when it comes to like I went to the core, which
yeah,
is the Hebrew Bible, or the Greek
yeah.
Bible,
Greek
sorry,
Bible, Greek, yeah,
the Greek. And the word for the firstborn is prototokos.
yeah.
And they say that it can mean two things.
Two things, yeah.
One is first in time sequence, or the
Hmm.
first to be born, and the other is first in position,
Yeah,
or the highest ranking person. So exactly what I explained it because I'm glad that I break it down like that. And I'm glad that the definition itself that I got would have helped me to clarify because if you hadn't explained like that, and some person who might have been reading and not really following, they might have taken it for the first meaning at first glance now, which is the first in sequence, or the first to be born on, and not the second meaning that I had, which is first in position, or the highest ranking person. So that is actually what it means. So I'm glad that you went into that part because I was reading it, but I was trying to follow exactly what was taking place now. But thanks for that.
yeah. Well, and to be honest, really, this would have come out to me also with a conversation with a Jehovah Witness, and I did some research on it beforehand, and I saw uh, a documentary online where they was referencing the David and showing the correlations there now because if you just read it based on how the Bible have it, you could come up with that interpretation because when we think about firstborn, our
Yes.
first mind is to Collier. Like that's and that would have caught it could have catch real people at the beginning. But then when you really go into the Greek, and it's so important to learn context too. So um when you continue reading the context in which the words are placed to could show you which meaning it's going to derive from. And I will tell everybody I realize and how important it is also to go back to the Greek because these days with so much information and technology that we have available, they're just shifting few words. And you have different Bible versions too. You have slight interpretations. So you're hearing some preachers preaching things too, and you really had to go back to not only what what they're saying, but the context of the words, and to see if they really explain using the right context when they're explaining too. And just aside, that's what I want to bring up that point. Even if you're listening to somebody online, I was telling one of my coworkers because she had an issue. I segue in here for a little bit. She had an issue in terms of once save, always save, and we would have dealt with this a while back because she was going through a little marital issue, and her husband was did the most on her, and she was saying that he was baptized, and she know he's living a life out there, and she was like, she's struggling with going in with dealing with this concept that no matter what he does, he's going to heaven, and I'm like, it's like no, 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 no. So we had a discussion, and I sent her some information, and she literally was following a preacher who she say he's real good with everything, and he brought up this one save concept, and I told her, I say, anytime you're gonna look at somebody online, other than what they say, you just research that person to see what is their background, because one save always save is from Calvinism, tulip, um, and most evangelicals and use that kind of structure now. So you could actually identify it by some of the key phrases that they see. So I told her, you had to find out the history of the person also, as opposed to what I mean, you always judge what they're saying, but also you could simply find out if they're Southern Baptist, so you can know what they're going to say. If they're evangelical, and you know that most of them believe in the believe Calvinism, and so it's very careful now because it sounds good, and they bring it in, but definitely had to do some research into when some of these people speak it. It have a lot out there, and it's getting very prevalent, even in America, especially. You have some preachers now coming out saying that they are misusing the word, and it's only this doctrine for money and wealth and things. So we have to be very careful out there, right? Thanks for that, Brother Ronald. I know I've segued a little bit, right? Right. So this certainly includes angels, right? And the interference is that we don't need to worship angels. Christ is over them too. So and I mean, I know there are some religions right now who still push that. Um, definitely, yes, definitely there are some religions now who still push that, but he's establishing this point here that he is over angels, right? And he's gonna go down. So he's building the chain of authority of how Christ is, right? So we're gonna look at 16b also, where all things were created through him and for him. So look at this point now. So we have, he is the image of the invisible God. He is the firstborn of all creation. He is the power of creation. And he's also the purpose of creation. Paul adds the point that not only were all things created through the power of Christ, they were also created for his purpose. In Ephesians chapter 1, Paul's explained that from the beginning of time, God's purpose was to bless those in Christ, in the church, in Christ church, with all the blessings of heaven, right? That includes us. So you have forgiveness, resurrection, glorification, exaltation, um, to the right hand of God. This is what he refers to in Colossians when he says, for him, everything in creation, everything in history, in one way or another, works in Christ's ultimate plan to bless the church with these spiritual gifts. And it's sometimes when you sit back and you really understand that you are part of God's plan from the beginning. And then, sometimes we are faced with some struggles here that it seems like the whole world breaking down. And he says, hear this, everything will work for you. And here you learn someone now, I'm saying you, but I'm talking about me too, because definitely. Here you learn some of these things, the car trouble, this break you down, and it's like everything from the beginning of time was set up for you. It just makes you feel so, well, you had to feel special from this. You had to feel, you know, when I tell somebody use that, even though somebody calling you and giving you trouble in school, Christ died for you. Died for you. Your maker died for you. They can't add or do anything to your life. And Christ put on his precious life for you. Understand that. And in that, there's a comfort in itself. Right? So here he's reiterating the point that the purpose of creation. for Christ also, right? So he's still establishing the chain of authority here, right? So we